Hey everyone, this is Kane Frequency, and today I want to talk about the Pixel Watch. The Pixel Watch was one of the most anticipated devices of last year, right alongside the Pixel 7 Pro that released in October. The Pixel Watch was supposed to be what the Apple Watch was to the iPhone and what the Galaxy Watch is to Galaxy devices. And I'm hoping that could be the case with the Pixel Watch. Out of all three of the devices that Google released last year, that being the Pixel 7, the Pixel Buds, and the Pixel Watch, I think, in my opinion, that Google hit the nail on 2 out of the 3 devices. The only thing is that it remains to be seen whether or not they got the last swing on the Pixel Watch. And that's pretty much what I'm here to talk about today. The first thing I'll say that is actually alright. It's not that bad of a smartwatch. It checks all the boxes that you would expect out of one. The only problem is that there are a couple caveats that you would have to accept before you go about ordering one. So with all that out of the way, let's not waste too much time and get right into it. I'll start off by saying that the Pixel Watch is probably one of the most gorgeous smartwatches I have ever used. The round and circular display perfectly meshes with the underside of the case, and if you notice, that underside is also chrome accented just like you would see on the Pixel 7. And the champagne gold color that I have here matches my hazel that I picked up for the Pixel 7 Pro. The other color options for the watch are matte black and silver. Around the outside of the case of the watch, you have your haptic crown on the right side, as well as a microphone and a recents button that'll take you to your most recent apps. As well as if you hold it down, it'll take you to the Google Assistant. With the haptic crown, the vibration and the haptics are just as good as you would expect on maybe something like your Pixel 7 Pro, and it gives a nice complement, a nice slight vibration to complement everything that's happening on screen. In terms of speaker quality on the Pixel Watch, it's serviceable and it gets the job done, but generally you won't be getting anything spectacular here. There's slight screeching that I can hear when somebody's speaking at high volumes, but unless you're really just talking on your watch 24/7, I don't really think you're going to be worried about the speaker quality most of the time. Unfortunately, the Pixel Watch happens to only come in one size, and that's 41mm. I would have liked to see something a bit larger, but to be honest, that is more personal preference rather than the watch itself. So I'm not going to really dock any points for it. It definitely sits well on my small wrist, but for the most part, for those of you that want something bigger, you're gonna have to look elsewhere. In terms of comfortability, I never felt like the Pixel Watch gave me any discomfort after wearing it for longer periods of time. Inside the box, you get 2 different bands, and that would be the larger one and then the smaller one. The larger one already comes pre-attached to the watch, and that one I felt gave me the best fit possible. When I did try to test the smaller band, it ended up being a little bit too tight. Speaking about the rest of the display, it carries your typical AMOLED display, and it's capable of 1000 nits brightness, so you don't have to worry about looking at it in direct sunlight if need be. On the top and bottom parts of the watch, you have 2 buttons that are used to take on and off the bands in case you want to swap them out for something different. All you have to do is hold the button, slide the band into the direction of the button, and it just slides right off. And then to reattach, all you simply have to do is line up the ridges with the button and then slide outward away from the button, and it reattaches. At first it can be a little difficult, but then after you reattach and detach it a couple times, you start to get used to it, and you shouldn't have any problem taking it off afterward. The price of the Pixel Watch is definitely premium. You're looking at $349.99 for the Wi-Fi model and $399.99 for the LTE model, although Google has been putting them up on sale quite frequently, so I think you wouldn't have a problem getting them at a little bit of a lower cost, although it is still a steep price for entry, especially considering the fact that this is Google's first branded Pixel Watch. Now, there are a couple reasons why I think it might not be deserving of that price, but I'll get a little bit into that a little bit later. Last but not least, the Pixel Watch has your typical sensors that you would find on your fitness watch in the premium category. Your heartbeat sensor and your blood oxygen sensor. Unfortunately, the blood oxygen sensor still hasn't been activated yet, and the only information that we have is that it's coming soon. These approvals for the sensors can take some time, but it does put a damper on it that you're paying for the sensor, yet it is still not activated yet. Google's Wear OS has come a long way from where it used to be, lagging way far behind its competitors, but now not so much anymore. It's fast, fluid, and cohesive, and way more organized than it used to be. The way I describe Google's version of Wear OS is that it's simple. Things like opening settings, you can find what you're looking for because everything's pretty much spelled out for you right there. The only thing that simplicity leads to is things like the app drawer or the app list, which would be the proper way to describe it, because apps kind of show up in a list format instead of scattered like a bunch of icons. If you have a lot of them, you'll be scrolling for a pretty long time. I really like the pixel specific watch faces that are available on the watch. A lot of them are animated beautifully, and there's a variety of them. Not a super big variety, but enough to be able to change it to make it look somewhat different if you choose to want to on a different day. They have a more modern, simplistic feel that actually matches well with the Pixel Watch's design itself. You can modify complications on each of the watch faces to make it different, like switching from heart rate to steps, or from steps to the weather, and a bunch of others as well. Not to mention, if you're so inclined, you can also go into the Play Store and install other watch faces as well. So you're not just limited to the ones that are pre-installed for you already. Now, it really wouldn't be a Pixel without the Google Assistant, now would it? And on the Pixel Watch, you can activate the Google Assistant just like you would on any other Pixel or Google device by just saying the Google hot word. Or on the Pixel Watch, you can press and hold the Recents button to get the same result. At times, I did feel like I was in a Google Assistant overload because I would have the Assistant on my watch, my Pixel Buds, and my phone. And when I was wearing all three, I felt like I would activate them all at the same time. But luckily, that's not the case. Google has a way of separating which devices and prioritizing which one will get activated depending on which one you're actually wearing. At least somewhat. If it's your watch and your phone, if it activates on the watch, it'll just stick to the watch. So it'll quickly deactivate the one that's attached to your phone. If you're wearing your watch and your buds, well, that's a little bit of a different story. On the flip side, if you have the Pixel Buds and the watch on, as well as your phone, it won't activate the phone, but for some reason, both my watch and my Pixel Buds were being activated at the same time. It does a pretty good job of not activating your devices all at once because that would generally just be a nightmare. And that also applies to when you're starting up a workout too, which leads me to the fitness tracking. And speaking of workouts, the Pixel Watch uses Google's very own Fitbit to track all of its health and exercise data. Directly from the watch, you can activate various workouts like cycling or running, all by just doing a single tap on one of the home screen pages. When you open the Pixel Watch's menu and you scroll down a little bit and find Fitbit, you'll notice that there are 3 different applications. One is going to be your Fitbit ECG app, where you'll find your heart rate data as well as obviously your ECG results. 2 will be Fitbit Today. And in Fitbit Today, you'll find a small snippet of some of the data that your watch has accumulated for all of your various exercise, as well as some of the other exercise data like heart rate monitoring and blood oxygen. When you go down and you find the Fitbit Exercise app, that is where you'll find the largest list for all of your exercises. But what if you're exercising and you forgot to activate one of your exercises? And of course, you would expect your watch to activate that exercise for you. Well, it won't. The Pixel Watch doesn't have automatic fitness tracking, so it won't track any of your exercises if you didn't manually input it yourself. It's a little unfortunate that the Pixel Watch doesn't have automatic fitness tracking, especially considering the fact that Google's expertise is in AI. So you would think that would be one of the first things that they added to the watch. It's kind of convenient to have automatic fitness tracking because sometimes everybody just wants to get a complete look at their current day and what they did during that day, especially as it pertains to anything like walking through a park or just going to your grocery store. There is one automatic tracker on the Pixel Watch, and that is the heart rate sensor. The heart rate sensor doesn't turn off, ever. It's on all the time, 24/7, which has its benefits and then its negatives. The benefits of it is that you get a more accurate tracking of your heart rate throughout the day. The problem with it is that it's also a battery drain. I do wish they had an option to set it to intervals, just so you can save a little bit more of that battery, especially for those of us that might not need the heart rate tracking on all the time. All the data that is accumulated from the watch goes into the Fitbit app. And from there, you can find all of your metrics in expanded detail. And there's also a couple extras too, like sleep tracking, wellness reports, and video workouts as well. When tracking my sleep data, it actually works exactly like it did on my Galaxy Watch. The only thing that I noticed is that when I was trying to track my sleep over multiple days, in a few of those days, it kind of caught my sleep an hour before I actually slept, which was a little weird. I thought it was because maybe my watch was loose when I had it on my wrist, but no, it was as tight as it possibly could be. I'm not sure what the problem could have been, but after a while, it didn't really do it as much as it was doing before. I'd still get it every now and then, but other than that, it seems as accurate as it possibly could be. One problem though, you actually can't use the sleep analytics or the sleep tracking without paying for it first. Yes, the sleep analytics are locked behind a paywall, specifically Fitbit Premium, which is $9.99 for a month and $79.99 for an entire year. I don't really understand the reasoning for locking the sleep analytics behind a paywall, especially considering the fact that the competition has it available for free. Not to mention, the icing on the cake is that both the Galaxy Watch 5 and the Apple Watch SE all cost lower than the base Pixel Watch. The Apple Watch SE is priced at $249 starting, and the Galaxy Watch kind of fluctuates every now and then with the sales they add on to it, from $279 to $229. So it's kind of weird how Google wants to make you pay for the sleep tracking when their watch actually costs more but does less. To be honest, there isn't that much left to say about Google's fitness and health tracking features because you only have two sensors attached to this watch, that being the heart rate monitor and the blood oxygen sensor. And the blood oxygen sensor isn't even active right now, so the only thing you have is the heart rate monitor and sleep tracking, which is also attached to that. And those are the two biggest features of the Pixel Watch in general when it comes to fitness. When you look at its fitness features in that way, at least at this point in time, you can kind of see how basic of a watch the Pixel Watch actually is. And it's at such a high premium that I almost seem disappointed by a lot of it. The battery on the Pixel Watch actually leaves a lot to be desired. I'll just say this, you're going to be putting it on the charger a lot. And they say it has an all-day battery, and it definitely does. The only problem is that that's only under a specific circumstance, and that's with the always on display off. With the always on display on, I was able to get about 20 hours before I hit the 10% mark. With the always on display off, I was able to get about 26 hours before I hit the 20% mark. So with the always on display off, it definitely hits a full day, but I definitely expected better with this watch in particular. With both tests, I ran the brightness at about 66%, or if you're looking at the visual of the Pixel Watch, 2 bars. I think for the most part, people will probably fall into two camps when it comes to the battery of the Pixel Watch. And that's because I think it ranges from average to not good depending on how you use your watch. For the people who throw their watch on the charger after a work day or a school day, you probably won't have a problem with the battery too much, and it'll probably rate just that average because you're just tossing it back on the charger to get ready for the next day. For the people who use their smartwatch when they go to sleep and into the next day, those are the people who are going to think that the battery isn't good. And that's because even for me, when I tested that and used it through when I was sleeping and then into the next day, it was when I hit the 10% mark, which was around 10 o'clock in the morning, which is a normal time for somebody's usual work day or school day. And if I didn't have a charger on me, then my watch was going to inevitably die. I think a little bit of the problem, or maybe even most of the problem of the Pixel Watch's battery, comes from the heart rate monitor activating at all times of the day, 24/7. If it wasn't and they allowed you to set it to intervals, I think you could probably save a lot more battery power in the long run. One thing is for certain though, is that if you do need to charge your Pixel Watch in an emergency, you can do so quite fast. It charges from 10 to 50% in about 12 minutes. And then from 50% to 75% in a total of 31 minutes. So it really isn't that bad of a charge to quickly charge up your smartwatch. But I do wish that we wouldn't have to toss it on the charger so much, so that way we can do it less frequently. Overall, I think the Pixel Watch is a decent smartwatch and an interesting start to Google's path to creating a Pixel ecosystem, or as Google likes to call it, their Pixel portfolio. The only thing here is that this watch doesn't do really anything extraordinary either. It's just okay. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It has all the makings and the blueprint for an amazing smartwatch. But I don't really think Google hit the mark where it needed to in its most important areas. One being the battery. The battery on the Pixel Watch can definitely get you through a day, but it won't get you any more than that. And that's a problem for a smartwatch in its price range. Not to mention some features that are supposed to be available with its sensors can't be used because it's either not active right now or it's locked behind a paywall. Now, these things I mentioned really wouldn't be so much of an issue if those other smartwatches didn't have better battery life, features not locked behind a paywall, and they also didn't cost less. If you ask me again, out of all three devices that Google released in their budding ecosystem, does the Pixel Watch manage to make it 3 for 3 in terms of care, quality, and functionality? I would probably have to tell you no. In reality, it's more like 2.5 out of 3. It almost gets there, but it doesn't quite make it to the finish line. So apart from my experience with the Pixel Watch, I want to know what you guys think. Have you bought one already? Is this video going to turn you away from picking one up? If you've already bought one, how was your experience with it? And as always, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I will catch you guys in the next one.